Hi friends, we are going to take up an advanced level of discussion in capital budgeting. This is basically intended for CA final, advanced financial management. Previously it was strategic financial management, now it is advanced financial management. The area that we will be focusing will be decision tree approach. What is that we are going to have in decision tree approach? Firstly, we will have a brief discussion about what is that decision tree approach. Then we will take up a problem, discuss the problem, and we will try to find a solution under examination circumstances. Okay. Now let us just try this. A decision tree approach under which we should basically understand that it is a graphical presentation of the action event combination or the sequence available to the decision maker. That is, when you make an investment, it may result in various outcomes which are beyond the control of anybody. It will be having a good response, moderate response, and poor response with various degrees of probabilities that might happen in year number 1, followed with in year number 2, and so on. For the sake of making it a little easier, I have chosen a problem with only 2 years action event combination. Okay. So by doing this decision tree approach, various combination we can work out, and none of the combination will be left out. So in a decision tree approach, a small rectangular or square can be drawn, that is a decision box, where your decision box should have a minimum 2 alternatives available. They either invest or do not invest, like that. And a decision would result in action, action would result in outcome. That outcome, when it is to be indicated, it will be indicated by a small note. Now let us just apply it in the problems, and the decision will be taken based on the financial values, or you can call that as expected monetary values. What is an expected monetary value? Whenever you find the term expected, so we will always be having probability associated with the events, and events will have financial values. So you will have probability, you will have financial values, and product of that we have got to take it up, and the sum of the product is what we will be arriving at as the final answer. That may be in majority of the cases involving in capital budgeting could your net present value. Now let us take up a problem. So where a firm has an investment proposal requiring an outlay of only rupees 40,000. The investment proposal is expected to have 2 years of economic life, and which has also got no salvage value. In year number 1, there is a 40% probability that the cash inflow after tax will be 25,000, and 60% probability that it is going to be 30,000, right? And this is for the first year probability. The probabilities for the second year will be dependent on the outcome of year number 1. So if it were to be 25,000 in the first year, it would result in 12,000 or 16,000 or 22,000, and their probabilities are given as 0.2, 0.3 and 0.5. So always understand that this sequence, like 25,000 in the first year followed with 12,000 or 16,000 or 22,000. So if it were to be 25,000 and 12,000, that is combination number 1. Combination number 2 will be 25,000 in year number 1 and 16,000 in year number 2. So from combination 1 to combination 2, there is a difference to the extent of only 4,000. So we don't have to work and waste time by taking up 25,000 into PV factor and 16,000 with separate PV factor. No. So already we would have taken up our computation for 25,000 multiplied by first year PV factor and 12,000 multiplied with second year PV factor, and that next combination would result in only 4,000 as the increase. So therefore I would only say that the rest of the combination becomes easier. From 16,000 to 22,000, there is going to be only 6,000 as the increase. So 6,000 as multiplied by second year PV factor will be the change that you would be expecting in the case of NPV. So by that point of time, we would have taken up combination 1, combination 2 and combination 3. So totally we are expected to have 6 combinations. How come? In the first year with 2 possibilities and followed with 3 possibilities in year number 2. 2 into 3 you will be having 6 combinations. Okay. Here also in year number 1 you will have 30,000 and followed with 20,000, and from 20,000 to 25,000 there is an increase to the extent of 5,000. From 25,000 to next number 30,000 there is an increase to the extent of 5,000. So if you are working out NPV for combination number 1 and combination 5, that will help us to combination 4, we will be in a position to arrive at the net present value based on the incremental cash flow of year number 2. So that is working wise it becomes easier to operate. So and the discount factor is 10%. The question is all about construct a decision tree for the proposed investment project. What net present value will the project yield if worst outcome is realized? What is the probability of occurrence of this NPV? So of the 6 combination, they are asking the worst outcome. Worst outcome is expected to be the lowest NPV, lowest positive or the highest negative, I would just say, or the worst or the amount of net present value if it were to be in a negative, the highest negative value. That is going to be the worst one, and the probability that we are going to take up, we're all from year number 1 and year number 2 we have to take a product, and the product of the 2 probabilities will be the probability of that particular event. Same is the way they have asked us what will be the best outcome and the probability of that occurrence. As how we have conveyed for the worst possibility or worst outcome, same is the way the best outcome for which we have got to do the same exercise. And finally the question is, will the project be accepted? If the NPV were to be positive in general, then the project has got to be accepted. See, now the first part of the question, what they've asked is that construct a decision tree for the proposed investment project. So we'll be in a position to arrive at the decision tree as the very first choice there. What is the very first choice that you can have? Now let us just draw the decision tree. So the decision tree comes in this form, a small rectangular box, or you can call it out as a square box. So where you have invest, the other one do not invest. So I don't want to write as do not invest. Don't means don't invest. Okay. As you just run through it, you find at the end of the decision taken, as year number 1 you will have either 25,000 or 30,000 with the probability of 0.4 and 0.6. With year number 1 possibilities of 0.4 and 0.6 for 25,000 and 30,000 respectively, followed in year number 2 it is going to be either 12,000 or 16,000 or 22,000, and with the respective probabilities given. Then you have for year number 2, you have this for year number 1 30,000, year number 2, 20,000, then year number 2, another 25,000, that is 20,000, 25,000 and 30,000 with the probabilities given, right? This is what we can tell as a decision tree, the pictorial form of presentation. We have not taken up any computation that would bring about the net present value which is the best, the net present value which is the worst, and there is no probability computation that we would be making so as to arrive at the best outcome and the worst outcome. Okay, now let us just proceed to the computational aspects. So here is a place where I wanted to bring out a computation. So I hope that all of you can easily follow. 25,000 multiplied by 0.909 and with 12,000 multiplied by 0.826. So you will get a product, and sum of the product should be compared with that investment that you make, which will result in 40,000. So even without discounting itself, you have only 37,000. By discounting the cash flows, it would only, or these numbers would only be coming down, and this I can tell for sure is going to be negative NPV. How confidently we can say is that even without discounting itself, it is coming to 37,000, and whereas initial investment which results in 40,000 rupees outflow will result definitely in negative NPV, and I can tell for sure that this is going to be the worst NPV, negative NPV. Why? Because further possibilities are all having cash flows with higher positive values. So the next combination, when you work, once again you don't have to do 25,000 and 16,000. So a difference between the two, that being 4,000 multiplied by 0.826. So this number shall be adjusted against the negative NPV so as to arrive at the NPV in this particular case. Same is the way, compare 16,000 and 22,000, and on 6,000 multiply the second year PV factor, arrive at the numbers and so on. So by this process we would have done combination 1, combination 2 and combination 3. So here is a place where you have combination 4, 30,000 and 20,000, like how we have done. If you take up 30,000 and 20,000 on absolute basis, it is 50,000. By discounting with a nominal, I mean a very low cost of capital of 10%, I can tell for sure this is going to have a positive NPV, and I can tell the best will come with 30,000 in both cases. But you don't have to just do separately all this. Reason is that once combination 4 is worked out, you compare 20,000 and 25,000, 5,000 increase, and that has got to be multiplied with second year PV factor that you are expected to add to the net present value of combination 4. And similarly for combination 5 to 6, the difference is only 5,000, and you make your life very easy if you observe the data given, and if that observation is not there, we will be wasting a lot of time. So I would like to tell you as how to save time. So read the data, read the problem carefully and find out shortcuts, and at the same time don't lose accuracy there and save a lot of time. Now let's just go through for combination number 1, which I have put it out as working note number 1. So here cash flow, PV factor and discounted cash flow. So I have taken up 4 decimals. 4 decimal or 3 decimal is not a matter at all. So you arrive at the numbers 32645. So when you know that the sum of that comes to 32645, you can as well arrive at your NPV as 7355 as an NPV in the negative. Correct. And this is going to be the worst NPV, and let us just proceed and find out as how combination 2 or working note number 2 can be worked out. So NPV as per working note number 1, to which there is an increase in the cash flow for year number 2 alone, that is for 4,000, multiply it with 0.8264 the PV factor for year number 2, and add to that, and your negative NPV will come down, but still it will be negative NPV only. Now on that basis, working note number 3, combination 3, you take up 4049 as the NPV for the previous case, and here there is a difference to the extent of 6000, and you will just get a positive NPV. And working note number 4, here it is to be done both for year number 1 and year number 2, like how we have done for year number, there is working note number 1, combination 1, that's the way we will be working out. Here it is going to be 3801 as positive NPV, right? And working note number 5, 6 and 6 would be very easy to operate. We will find out only the incremental cash flow in year number 2, that being 5000. This is going to add your net present value. Working note number 6 on the same lines, so that is going to bring about the best net present value. And now let us just put them into the decision tree. Already we have seen the decision tree, we don't want to do that, we have just copied that, and now we are going to apply. So whatever net present value that we have taken up from working note number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we will simply copy 7355 negative and 0.08 is a joint probability. So people would like to know, sir, how do you get this 0.08? Please understand, 0.4 multiplied by 0.2. That is the way you get 0.08. So in fact, the probability of getting the worst negative 7355 is 8%. So you have there is probability of worst thing is 588, but we will not report this 588, we will report the worst one as 7355, and the probability of that is 8%. Okay, and now let us just take up for the second one 4049, and this is not that worst, and it is worse of course, and we will capture that negative expected NPV. So the last one in that particular field is combination 3 and 909.20, and I hope that all of you would be knowing about how that joint probability is worked out. So we are expected to take up the probability of year number 2, and for the preceding years probability that we are going to take up, you are expected to bring out the product, and that is the way we have taken up 0.4 multiplied by 0.5, that is the way 0.2 is worked out. Same is the case in this place also, it is 0.4 multiplied by 0.3, 0.12. That's the way we are expected to arrive at the values. So once this combination is worked out, so because computation is going to be the same, so now we are expected to total up the expected net present value, and that is going to be the net present value for the project as a whole. So we will answer to the question one by one. NPV for worst outcome is 7355 and the probability is 8%. And when it is the best performance, it is 12065. The probability of occurrence is 6%. And then lastly, we are expected to answer to that particular question whether the project will be accepted or not. Answer to that question is yes. The project has got to be accepted because it results in positive NPV as a whole. So this is the way your decision tree approach, where it captures all the possible action event sequences, and 2 into 3, 6 combinations were captured, and we have taken a present value, we have taken a probability, all that had resulted into the final analysis where we could see how much is the probability of worst and how much is the probability of best, and those numbers, and finally we have got the final answer that we have got to accept the project. Okay, This is a very, very important problem for your CA final examination coming up for your November and May examination. So please mark it out as very important, and please try this problem at least twice, thrice before going to the examination, and please do forward this video to all of your friends. Okay. So thank you, and we will be meeting on some other lectures on AFM. Okay. Thank you.